Corwin. Thank you for joining me today. We will be painting a beautiful bison in Yellowstone National Park, walking through mist and snow with a geyser erupting in the background. I will take you through this painting step by step, simplifying it into some simple shapes and lines and easy color mixing. I will demonstrate each step here on the canvas and then tell you to pause the video so that you can complete that step. Feel free to re-watch that section, and when you finish a step and you're ready to move on, press play. Today we will be using acrylic paint, and I have the primary colors, and we're using just a cadmium red, titanium white, ivory black, cadmium yellow, ultramarine blue, and raw umber. We will also be using 3 small brushes, a big flat brush, medium flat brush, and a small pointy brush. And just a cup for water for mixing those paints and getting them clean, and a handy paper towel for easy cleanup. So if you haven't used acrylic paints before, they wash away with water and they also dry quickly. So if you make a mistake, there's a couple things you can do. You can just dampen your paper towel with some water and just wipe it away, or just wait a few minutes, let it dry, and you can paint right over it. And in the time that we have together, we'll finish the painting. But if you're struggling with anything or have questions, feel free to message me or write in the comments. I am super happy to help. All right, well, let's dive in. So to start, I'm going to use my small pointy brush and the black, and I'm just going to make a simple grid here. I'm dipping my brush in the water so the water helps get the paint flowing a little more easily. We don't typically mix water into the paint throughout this process, but at the beginning it can help get that paint flowing better on the canvas. So the grid we're going to do will help block in our bison so that it's proportionately accurate, and that all of the bison we create together will be relatively the same size. So what we're going to do to start is just draw a line straight down, cutting our canvas in half. And this line can be very light and thin. We don't want it showing through in our final painting. And then the next line is cutting our canvas in half horizontally. And you can start to do this step along with me if you want. It's a pretty easy one. And now we're cutting this upper half in half. And this half in half. Great. Okay, now we're going to focus on this first half, and we're going to do a vertical line cutting that in half. And again on this side. Okay, so go ahead now and start to put in those lines, and pause the video. When you're ready to move on, press play. Okay. We're going to continue using our black and small pointy brush. We're going to make some marks here. I'm going to come up into this section. We're going to find that midway point right there and come down into this bottom section, and also put in a point between halfway between here and here. halfway between here and here. Now we're also going to make a mark. We're going to find our center here, and this section here, we're also going to find our halfway point there. And now coming into these two sections, half between here and here, half between here and here. So if you need to rewatch that or go ahead and put in those marks, we'll now connect them with some lines. So this first shape is basically just a big oval or egg shape. So coming off this line, it's going to curve up and touch just the top of this line here. Get some more water into that paint if it gets a little sticky. And now it's going to curve back down into this line. And then it's going to start to taper in right down to this line. That's going to be the main head of our bison. And now from the top, we're going to come off the sides here and do another big arc right up to that line and back down. Just like that. All right, go ahead and do that step now. So the next step we're going to do is put in some lines. We're going to mark out from this point to the side of the face here and halfway. And again, from here to here, halfway. And now about halfway down this, we're going to find that little part there. And this is just more of an organic, free form line that follows the edge of the face, comes down right into that line there. And the same thing on this side as well. Just like that. And now this continues down, kind of flares out just a little bit. This is where the legs come. And as it hits this line, it's going to curve back towards this line here. Same thing on this side. This line comes down, down. As it hits this line, it starts to curve inward like that. All right, so next we're going to find roughly about halfway from here to here, but on the body, so that'd be like right about there. And again, halfway here, but on the body's right there. And that's just going to be just a slight bow that's going to hit this line here for the back of the body. This side is actually going to start up higher, but we're going to end right about that same spot. So if you just draw kind of an imaginary line across, it's basically where this line is here. I'm going to mark, but we're going to come up from this line, and it's going to hit here. So it's just going to be another bow there and back into the body, just like that. Okay, so go ahead and put those lines in, and if you need to rewatch that section, do so, and when you're ready to move on, press play. Okay, so let's put some facial features in. I'm going to come down to this chin area here. And we're just gonna do a box. It's gonna go up about halfway from here to here. And it has just a bit of curve here at the top, but it drops straight down. So we form a little box right there. Now within that box, I'm gonna do a curve right here. Makes a little almond shape. And a line straight across. This is for the chin and the mouth. And then on either side of that, put in some black here for the nostrils. Be sure to leave a little gap of white in between there. You can also put in the beard here. Great. Okay, go ahead and do that step and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, let's go ahead and put in some horns. So we're going to come to this top of the head here, just about, so we're going to break this section up. So here's the halfway point and into fourths. It's going to come and go across this line there, kind of curving in that. That's going to be where our horns start. So they come in just inside the head ever so slightly and then curve outside, running along this line here and then back in. Again, curving up towards the inside, towards the head, then back. Same on this side, curving in towards the head, and then following along this line back in, just like that. And of course there's some little black ears that come off of that, a little ear that comes off of that. And then for the eyes, we'll do the eyes next. So go ahead and put those horns in and then we'll put in the eyes. I'm just going to draw a line that comes up off the nose. Just like that. We're going to be able to play with that a little bit more. But the eyes are going to rest from this line, if we were to draw it straight across, and we can bring in these little eye sockets that end on this line too. But then the eyes within those are tiny, so basically just in that center, you're gonna put in those eyes in the center of that space. So do that step and then we'll move on to the next one. So lastly, we're just going to mark out the legs here. So we're going to come to this and we're just going to do slight diagonal up to this line here. And then again, slight diagonal into this line too. Just kind of a little V shape or a cone there just to kind of show split with the legs. And we might as well start to put in our trees of our background. So I'm just going to roughly put in some V's here along this line. These are where the trees will be very faint in the background. I'm making them just kind of random for right now. We'll bring them out a bit more later. And then also where our geyser is going to be erupting, we're going to put in just this little horizon line. Make that just a little darker so we know where that is. It's just coming across this line here, halfway between here and here. All right, go ahead and do those steps, and then we'll have our bison drawn in, and we'll be able to start filling it in with color. All right, let's go ahead and start putting in some color. I'm going to take out my medium-sized brush, and I'm going to mix that raw umber with the black, about equal parts, just to make a darker brown here. I'm actually going to bring just a little bit of blue into it, just to cool it down, because this is a winter scene. And now this color I'm going to use to just paint everything inside the face to start. And you'll notice this paint goes on thin, but I can use that to my advantage here in bringing out some fur texture using my brush strokes. We'll also be putting on multiple layers, so this isn't the final layer. You can see how I'm using these brush strokes to start to shape out my face just a little bit and some of that fur texture. I'm also going to bring this in down here into the legs. As I make this color, I'm going to add just a hint more blue, just so it's slightly more on the cool side with the blue. And it's only going to go part way up here, and as I do that, I'm releasing the pressure of my brush, making it very light so I get this nice kind of faded transition into the white canvas. Same on this side, just very lightly letting that start to fade up into the white, but then remain dark down here. Again, these brush strokes, I am using that to bring out that fur texture in those legs. And then lastly, with this color, I'm going to bring it into the sides of the body here. And same thing, as we get about halfway up, start to lighten that pressure, letting it just fade into that white. Same on this side, dark down here, and then lightly fading as we go up, just like that. All right, go ahead and start to do this step. The colors, again, we mixed the raw umber with some blue and some black, about equal parts will give you what you need, except down in here, just a little bit more blue. So go ahead and rewash that section if you need to, and then I'll meet you in the next step. Okay, for this step, we're going to continue using our small or our medium brush. Rinse it off and give it a good dry. We're going to mix our raw umber with some of the black. And we're just going to come right up here on this line here and just do a darker section of this color. Just like that. But now we're going to bring some white into that color. Actually, let's go ahead and make a new color because I don't want that black in there. I'll gray it down. So we're going to take our raw umber here and mix some white into it. You'll see it'll start to lighten it up into a mocha color. This color we're going to use now to just fill in the rest of that area, just around that dark part. And then also down the sides of this body. And down the sides. Now as it gets into this color, we're going to bring it over the top so it has that nice transition between those two colors. So mix that raw umber with the white and fill in those areas. We're going to make a new color for the other areas. Okay, so for these parts, we're going to use that same color. If you need to make more, do so, mixing the brown with the white. I'm just going to bring in a hint of red and a hint of black to darken that down. Might put in just a little bit more black, a little bit more of red. You can always test your color on the canvas to see if it's right, because it will look different on the painting in comparison with the other colors than it does on your palette. So same thing, that just fades down into that nice color down there. Same right there. Okay, go ahead and do this step and rinse your brush. We're going to take out our small pointy brush for this step. We're going to make a gray by mixing the white with the black. This is a bit of medium gray and a bit of that blue in there. And darken it down a little more. So it's a medium blue-gray. This color here, we're going to paint into our horns. also here in the nose, just across the top, down around those nostrils, and into the chin. And now for the eye sockets, I'm going to bring a little bit more brown into that. Also want to darken it down just a hint more black. We'll bring back out the eye. But go ahead and just fill in those spaces there. Okay, so we've got our first coat and base of paint, and we're gonna let that dry. We're gonna put in some of the background now before we put some more paint layers on our bison. Okay, go ahead and pull out your bigger brush. We're going to put in our sky, and it's kind of a subdued, misty sky. So we're gonna take our white here, and we're going to mix it with some of the black and some of the blue, just to make that light blue-gray color again. We're just going to cover our sky down to where our trees are going to be. It's a little blue, so add some more gray and white to that. Keep the color consistent. Okay, so go ahead and put in your sky, and when you're ready to move on, press play and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, we're going to continue using our big brush, and we're going to move into painting in our trees here. And it's a very similar color to what we just made. I'm going to actually use that same pile. I'm going to bring in the white and make that blue-gray again with my black and my blue. This time I'm going to bring in just a little bit of that raw umber to start to get a sagey green. And we can actually use just a hint of this yellow too. And darken that down. We want it darker than our sky so that those trees show up. So go ahead and add some more black to that if you need to. Looks like my trees are showing up, but I want them very faint and misty in the back. So I don't want it to be too dark, just slightly darker. Just making up some more of this color so I don't run out. All right. So bringing out some of these trees. Really, I'm just pulling up these points into that sky. They don't really have any sort of defining tree shape, but our eyes will read them as trees. It goes all the way down to this line down here. Starting on this side. Okay. Wonderful. All right. So go ahead and put those trees in and pause the video. When you're ready to move on, press play. All right. We're going to keep using that big brush. And we're going to move down into the foreground here. And we're going to revisit this color by taking our white and mixing it with our black and just a little blue and a little brown. And I'm going to just drag this color across here, making just some variations that will be in the snow. It's just random. Just kind of breaking that up just a little bit. Like that. And then I'm going to rinse off that brush. Give it a good dry. And now I'm going to take my white and I'm going to work it back into that color, but make it much lighter. And now go over all that area in between those sections that we just put in. I'm actually going to soften this horizon just a little bit there by pulling that paint up into that other color. Also right here in between the legs, get some of that white up in there. Go ahead and put that step in, rewatch that section if you need to, and then we'll move on to the next. Okay, go ahead and pull out that medium brush again. We're gonna come back into our bison now and put in some more layers. So we're gonna take our black again and mix it with the brown. It's gonna make that dark chocolate brown again, and add in just a hint of blue to it. We're gonna put that right back over this layer again. Make some more of this paint so I have enough. And just bring out another coat of it. And now, while we're using this color, we're going to do the same for the legs. We're going to mix that color again by taking the black, some brown, a little bit more blue. This time we're going to bring some white into it. So we're going to make this light color here, but we're going to do it with the white now instead of having the canvas showing through. So you can see it's a bit of a dark blue-gray. And now I'm bringing that into the legs. On this side as well. Make note too of the direction that my brush strokes are going, because this is the direction that the fur falls on the body. So as I paint it in, I'm being mindful of the direction that the fur flows when bringing out the brush strokes. A little bit more color right in here and here. Okay, so go ahead and do this step and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, go ahead and take out your small pointy brush. We're going to take our black with some blue here, mix those together. We're going to come back into these nostrils and just do another coat just to darken them a bit. And also bring out the mouth too. And now I'm going to bring just a hint of brown into that color. And I'm going to darken this area right up in here. Above the mouth there. And also the sides of the chin. Just kind of setting it back in a little bit more, giving it some shadow. I'm also going to do the same here in the horns, coming from the top. It's a little blue. I'm going to add just a hint more brown to it. Just lightly bringing that color down. We'll be able to bring out some more highlights because I know that it's quickly darkening away, but this just helps bring out some of that texture. So I'm just doing another layer over that color like that. This is also the color we're going to use for our eyes. Revisiting that area in the middle. Just going to do just a dark little splotch for right now. And then just very lightly darken this area around the eyes. Again, so that it starts to set in more. All right, so go ahead now and start doing this step, and then we'll move on to the next one. So while these sections are still wet, we're going to use our small brush. I rinsed it off and cleaned it. I'm just going to bring some white back into that color that we were just using. And this here is just gonna go just across the top here. And just a slight bit across the top of the mouth. And then also right up here in the horns on the inside. And on the outside, just the outer edge. Same thing here. A bit on the inside and on the outside. And lastly, I'm just going to use it to just bring out a hint of the eye inside. Just another just small little dot of that color there. And then we'll be able to darken those eye sockets a bit more in the next step. All right, so go ahead now and work on those steps, and I'll meet you in the next one. Okay, take out your medium brush again. We're going to take our black and mix it with that brown. Get that dark chocolate brown again. And we're just going to darken this section here one more time. Actually, I'm going to bring a little bit of blue into that, just so it matches a bit more of the other blue of the body. Just like that. Then I'm going to rinse off that brush. I'm going to move into the other color around it by taking my white and mixing a little bit of that brown into it. This time I'm going to use just a hint of yellow. Well, that was too much yellow, so just a hint. and some white. That's too light, so I'm going to take a little bit more of my brown. Darken it down just a little bit. And this goes on here on the sides. I'm going to actually use my small brush for this part because I think I can get a little bit more of that detail in. The detail as I come back in, I'm going to break this up just a little bit here so I can get some nice fur texture. So you can see how I'm using that wet paint that I just did and just kind of scrubbing it around so I get that nice blend between the two. And same going down the sides here. Leaving it just a hint darker right in those creases there. And now this continues down the sides, but just on the outer edge. We're gonna have a different color on the inside there. Same, just going around the horn and sticking to the outer edges here, just like that. So, all right. So go ahead and do that and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I'm going to keep using that small brush. I gave it a good clean. And I'm going to take my black and just a hint of that brown and some of that blue. At this time, a little bit of white to lighten it up. I'm going to do some more brown into that to get more of a brown gray. And just here on the side of the body, hugging the face, just bringing in some shadow of that color. Letting it lightly fade out into the other colors. Same thing on this side. Shadowed area along the face. And then very lightly letting it just fade into those other colors. All right, and because I love using the same color, making it easy on you, we're just gonna keep using that color, but we're gonna add some white to it and just a hint of red. I'm gonna move up into this area now. Doing another layer here. Letting that color just fade down. Same thing here. And now for just a little bit of highlight, add some more white to it and a touch more blue. Make just a lighter, bluer version. That's just gonna hang out right up here at the top. Give it some nice highlight there and a bit of highlight there. All right, so go ahead and do this step. If you need to rewatch that section, please do so, and we'll move on to the next. Okay, we're gonna keep using our small pointy brush. We're gonna take our black and our white and make a medium gray. with some blue, so it's a medium blue-gray. Touch it here on the canvas, make sure that's, see that's too light, so I'm going to darken it down. So maybe it's more of a dark blue-gray. So now we're going to put in some furry details, and I like to roll my brush in the paint, helps roll it into a finer point. And just very light with your pressure, you can get a finer point from your brush. So I'm going to start to bring out these long hairs here in the face, running down the beard. It's darker right under the chin, so leave it darker there. And it's light up the side of the face towards the eyes. Up the side of the face. Letting that color just fade into the rest of the face. And now here in the center of the face, it's kind of a little seesaw back and forth from the top of the nose. This is going to help bring out more three-dimensional form in her face as we go up. You can see all these areas now that I'm starting to fill in, bringing out the hairs here that are getting frosted from the cold weather. And you can see the direction of my brush strokes too. So feel free to re-watch any of this. And then do as I do. Mimic these brush strokes and the directions that I'm going in. Tinging the top, but leaving some areas of it still dark. Great. So now I'm going to add just a hint more white to that color and do the same thing here in the legs. Bringing out these hairs and fur, going down the legs. Again, copy the direction of these brush strokes that I'm going in, because they start to curve inward as we go in. And then outward as we go out. Great. All right. There's a lot in that step, so take your time with it, and then I'll meet you in the next step. Okay, if you have some of that color left, we'll continue using it. And with our small pointy brush, We're gonna do some mist, or I guess, I don't know, like vapor coming out of the nose from where it's breathing out. And I have very little paint on the brush, and I'm just very lightly touching my canvas to brush this in. So very little paint on the brush, very light, delicate brush strokes will help you get this very light, transparent effect. Very light. Slowly working the color out. As it goes out, it dissipates more into the rest of the body. All right. I might bring in just a hint more white closer in here, just so it shows up even more. Because the acrylics, they do dry darker than you put them on when they're wet. So it's nice to compensate for that a bit. Okay, so go ahead and put in that mist that is steam that is blown out, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I'm going to bring some more white into that color. I'm going to keep working with it because I like it. It's a blue, light blue gray. And this is where I'm going to be able to bring out a bit of my snow that's kind of encrusted here on the side of the face. It's a bit right here on the top of the nose and into the face. So again, just note where I'm putting this and then do the same on yours. Maybe some just up here on the top of the head. Of course, some in the beard. And some here. The legs, maybe on the side of the body just a little bit. Just wherever you think that you want some of this snow. We're going to put some more heavy snow down where the feet are too, but that's our next step. I'm going to take my white now and just bring in a hint of black just to make it a off-white. And I'm going to put in another layer going over the snow here. Helps get rid of some of those black lines from the very beginning that we have, if they're still showing through, which mine are, you can see them. Looks like the video cut off when I was in the middle of the painting process and you couldn't see the last couple steps that I did, but I will tell you what I did. They were super easy. So I added some more white here. I took my white, added just a hint of black to it to make it an off-white, and layered that in so I got rid of those black grid lines, and then brought some of that up into here. And then I also brought some of that up here, and just some little bits and blotches there. And then I took my white and I put in the geyser. So I used my medium brush and I pushed a line of white up here, and then I used the residual paint on the brush to scrub that paint around into the background to give it that nice misty look. And then lastly, I took my small brush and I made that blue, light blue gray again by mixing white with black and some of the blue. And I brought it into all these little areas here as little bits of snow that's collected on the fur. So that's here in the legs, the beard, up the sides, sides of the face, in the face, across the top of the head, some in here too. Go ahead and do those steps. Rewatch this section if you need more of the explanation again. And if there's something that I missed or you have questions with, ask me in the comments. I'm so sorry about missing that. I guess my cameras have a 20-minute timer and I should know that. So anyway, go ahead and do that and I'll meet you in the outro. All right, that concludes our bison painting. How did it go? I would love to see what you created, truly, so please send me pictures. And please subscribe, follow along, join me in a future class. I would love to paint with you again. Thank you so much.